Hey everyone, I've had a lot going on, so I apologize for not getting a longer video out in a couple weeks. So I'll briefly go over last night's contest results. It was definitely a busy weekend in bodybuilding, even though there weren't any huge shows. Everybody was focused on the Indie Pro to see Blessing's pro debut when Justin Rodriguez tiptoed in and stole the show. And this shouldn't have been too surprising as he really established himself as one of the better Tier 2 guys last year. But there were 3 other pro shows that quietly took place that you might have missed. All 3 of them had Bikini, plus there was a women's physique contest as well. So I figured I'd go over those contests and the winners of them, and then briefly cover some of the developments in the New York Pro taking place next week in Tampa, which will be the biggest pro show we've had thus far this year. We'll kick things off with the Night of Champions in San Diego, showcasing Bikini. It's kind of weird they got the naming rights for this when the New York Pro lost them and couldn't recuperate them. And this was pretty much Ashley Kaltwasser's show to lose, and she didn't disappoint by notching her 25th pro win. She's on fire right now as she's won 3 contests in a row and is going into the New York Pro with a ton of momentum behind her. And I don't see how anyone can complain with her blocking them from the Olympia tonight, when there were 2 other shows happening elsewhere. Next up was the Grl Pwr Championship in Orlando. You gotta love the name for this one. And it was won by Ashlyn Little, and it was actually her first pro victory, so kudos to her for that. She's been competing a lot the last few years, and seems to get a little bit better each show. She lost to Kaltwasser 2 weeks ago at the Wasatch Warrior, and people might not realize this, but she's a top 10 Olympian who nearly beat Ashley last year. So it kind of feels like there's a mini rivalry brewing between them, and it will definitely be good for her to rest up before then, because she's done a lot of shows the past few years and could probably use a break. Lastly, the St. Louis Pro was the biggest show of the night as it featured Olympians in both its bikini and physique contests. In bikini, Alessia Fachin was back at it after just falling short last week in Pittsburgh. But unfortunately for her, she finished second by just a single point this time, making it 2 weeks in a row where she's just missed her Olympia qualification. This time it was Gabrielle Messias that beat her and is now going to the Olympia for a second consecutive year after turning pro last year. She's definitely someone you want to keep an eye on. There's also this thing called Women's Physique that took place, and it's definitely felt like an eternity since I've been able to cover it, but I haven't forgotten about it as it was the first video I did to gain any traction. And this was definitely a breakout show for multiple women. Jennifer Facinto came in strong and finished 3rd. Second place went to a girl by the name of Sheena Washington, who's jumped back and forth in open and physique since she turned pro. I imagine she'll settle into physique now that she's a force to be reckoned with here. Finding her on Instagram can be a bit tricky because she goes by the handle Queen Shira with an R. The winner was a travel nurse by the name of Carly Terepka. Many may have forgotten about her as it looked like she was a one and done after placing 8th at her first and only show in the 2018 Tampa Pro. But she has quietly made improvements since then while working over the last 3 years and returned with a vengeance, showcasing an outstanding back. Her conditioning was pretty spot on as well, and it now looks like her 3rd pro show will be the Olympia. Next week we have the New York Pro, which will actually be the biggest show we've had thus far since the Arnold was pushed back. Everything besides fitness will take place. It looks like Kaltwasser will be the front runner in bikini, but there's some girls that are very hungry to get to the O. The wellness contest is going to be crazy as well, since Urishna and Borges are both confirmed, so anybody wanting to get a qualification has 2 enormous hurdles to get over. Someone to watch in the women's physique contest is Elisa Kaesling, who goes by the name The Classical Queen on Instagram and is making her much anticipated pro debut. As for the other divisions, it was a bit hard to lock down who's competing. The women's open contest might not be that big, as many of the bigger names seem to be waiting until later in the season to make their run, which could come back to haunt them, but we'll see what happens. There could be some big names quietly getting ready, but we won't know until the competitors list gets released in a few days. So that's all I got for this one, everybody. If you like my content, give me a like, subscription, or comment on the video. It helps the channel out, plus it also helps the video gain traction. So until next time, good luck and thanks for watching.